Hello and welcome to TNA Top 10. It is September 30th, 2024, and I'm going to look at my phone every episode when I say that. I'm T Weave. With me as always are Andrew and Allison Faye. How you doing, guys?
Terry,
Hap-
we're here. Allison, go ahead.
nope, I'm good. It is the end of an era for me, so I am excited. Tomorrow starts a new day. Uh, I am Today's my last day as chair of my employee resource group. Uh, I manage one of about 5,000 members for disabled employees, and today is my last day as the chair for the entire company. And tomorrow I move into the professional development lead. So yay!
Awesome.
I'm excited.
We, the three of us, and there is a fourth missing,
Mm-hmm.
are proof that you need to have a variety
Yes.
of personality, worldview,
Mhm.
that sort of thing. Terry is the planner of the group. I am the funny guy, loudmouth, don't give a fuck person of the group. Allison is the bad driver of the group.
I am assertive. Thank you very much. I am an assertive driver.
I think we've both been accused, though, by the fourth who's
This
missing
is true.
of
Yes.
being the bad driver of the group.
This is true.
Because we get there and we get there efficiently.
Correct.
Just may not like the way we get there. And we know she's listening and we love you, Amy.
Yes.
So, But
And we beat the estimate every time.
we
even with
beat
tops.
the GPS, and that is all that matters. I
Correct.
do not.
I
mean,
don't care.
I don't know. Let's ask anybody that may be watching. I know we just started, but does anybody else play that game? Estimated time of arrival 4 hours and 46 minutes. Bet. Let's go. I'm gonna beat it every single time. Every single time. A lot like somebody I know driving from Massachusetts, or not Massachusetts, Connecticut to Chicago, and having 5 stops, 5 of them, and not losing a minute on the road, Terry.
That is correct.
All I know is I run into something halfway between here and Nashville every time I go north.
As Terry is judging
Every
us.
time.
Okay.
Did you see
Time
the
out.
judgmental eyes? He's shaking his head at us. That's Terry judging us like these two cannot be trusted.
Now, the person who just commented, Mr. Bober, commented yes. Meanwhile, please let me remind everybody who is watching.
Oh yeah, we were there.
We went to a wedding and we were following for an entire weekend, and we were following Mr. Bober on the highway, and Allison was behind him screaming at him, "Move your ass, Grandma!" He drove so slow. Oh my God. Also, thank you, Carla. I drive assertively, not aggressively. Okay, so yeah.
Has she ever ridden with you?
I do not
Okay.
know. Excuses.
Well,
like we've been there.
We assumed you didn't know where you were going.
Yeah, I mean, like I just fly. Like I don't even worry. Like there are people that based on my reputation of driving, I've had one speeding ticket, never had an accident, knock on wood, all that stuff. But I am in a hurry. I mean, that's it. It's all the time in a hurry. So there are people like, oh, Andrew drives like Speed Demon, and he has a Supra. Both statements are true, but I'll never put someone's life in danger. Now, when Allison and I went to Charlotte, she drove. I just hopped in the car and we went. Like I there was no concern, but we got there. And then she's like, what the fuck is wrong with all the people here in Charlotte? Don't they know how to drive? I said, no, ma'am, they don't. I'll answer that for you now. And it was doing the Southern gimmick, Terry, where it's raining a little bit. So all of the people from the South forget that they know how to drive in the rain. And she was losing her mind.
I got to admit, I turned the radio down last night. When
No,
I was
no.
trying to figure out where I was going.
That's the worst.
Oh. I mean, we already called you Dad. You're right, not helping yourself.
Not helping. No,
Oh,
can we put on some
yeah.
easy listening?
Yeah, my dad likes to remind me that I managed to flip my Ford Explorer in 1 inch of snow.
1 inch?
1 inch.
Why were you driving in 1 inch of snow? We would never do that down
That's
here.
They
the
would not
last
do that down
time-
here.
That's
Not
the
here.
last time I ever drove in the snow.
All I'm saying is, down here, Terry is correct. Huntsville
Yeah.
or Goldsboro, Raleigh, whatever you want to call it. You get an inch of snow here, and you might as well shut it down. We ain't doing nothing.
10
No,
years
it's a threat. We
ago-
don't even have to get it. If somebody mentioned that it might happen, we're out. Out of
Lock
school
it
for a week.
down. We're out.
We had
We're
30 inches of snow like 10 years ago. 30. It was higher than like my son, I think, at the time. Like it was
One of those
nuts.
northeasters or whatever,
Yeah, it
lake
was
effects,
crazy.
whatever it was.
Yep.
Nice.
Nuts.
Nice. Yeah, I grew up in the Midwest. I've seen my share of snow. Snow pisses me off, but what pisses Allison off this
Okay.
week?
So, you guys know I'm a binge watcher. I love to watch my shows binge style. So I
Stories. They're not
Correct.
shows.
They're my stories.
We're the Golden Girls. They're stories.
So I flip between
Stories.
different streaming services for that, and I'm used to Netflix where there's no commercials. Well, I watched Hulu the other day, and I pay for the one with the ads. Why sometimes is there such a discrepancy between the volume of the TV show you are watching?
Uh-oh.
Oh no, we lost her. I know where
Oh,
she
no.
was going. Discrepancy
Did I-
between.
sorry.
Okay, there we go.
I'm back. Discrepancy
back.
between the volume of the TV show and the volume of the commercial.
It's
It's
crazy
obscene.
on Hulu.
Yeah, it's obscene.
I'm watching a show and it's a horror show, right? So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna lower it a little bit. The commercials come on and scare the bejesus out of me. I'm like, what is happening? What? We can put man in space. We can't fix volume on a TV.
I can just see it being the Burger King commercial with the song,
So
and it just busts out real quick.
bad.
I want to add to the fire to the producer's pissed. You know, the whole point of getting Hulu Live, Netflix, Amazon, Disney Plus, ESPN Plus, whatever, was to cut the cord and save money.
So
I think that gimmick is over, ladies and gentlemen, because I got another rate increase alert from Hulu either last week or the week before. And before you can continue watching Hulu Live, they make you hit accept that you understand they're about to charge your ass more money.
So, to combat that, I do every Black Friday. I buy a new subscription for the year, and it is between $1.99 or $2.99 a month, worth every penny, and I will watch the commercials for that price.
Wow.
Yeah. So
she
next
just
Black
admitted
Friday,
she
check
has
it out.
11 email addresses, Terry. That's what she just said. Speaking of email, have you checked yours lately, Terry? How's the email situation over there in Huntsville?
I don't do email. We're past
Oh,
email. I
God.
mean, it's 2024. Email is a bad way to communicate.
He knows I was just busting his chops, but
It is
He's
a
one of
bad
those
way to
people-
communicate.
he's one of those people, Allison. He's got email on his phone, and it says 1,342 unread
Nope.
messages.
Nope.
737 actually.
There you go. I made up a bigger number, but he's got 737 unread messages. Tell him how we feel about that.
No. That's just a big no. I am on a delay, too. Trying to figure out how to get myself out of a delay, but anyway.
Do you?
And-
That is
yes,
correct. It is to
Spoker
eliminate
says-
commercials.
Yeah.
But do you know?
That's the whole purpose.
And we're going to talk about wrestling in a minute, but we're on this topic now. Raw, when it goes to Netflix, will have commercials because the wrestling fan is already conditioned
Mhm.
to watch commercials during their programming. Pretty smart business, well done research by the people that are putting that together. Very good job on their part. Oh, and tonight is the last 3-hour Raw for the foreseeable future, unless Netflix jumps to 3 hours at the beginning of next year. This will 2 hours from here on out after tonight.
Today's
It's been
also
3
a big
hours
day-
forever.
Today's also a big day in baseball with that doubleheader. I mean, that was insane.
The Yankees had it locked up yesterday, sir. I don't know what you're talking about. They actually had it locked
the
up.
Braves
last
can't
week
do that kind
and
of
the week before. If you're talking baseball and you're talking God's team, they had that locked up a week and a half ago.
Well, I thought the Braves had a playoff spot locked up in the ninth inning when they had the lead today, but apparently not.
so because we were not busy at work, I had the game on, and Nebraska's pitcher, I forget how to say his last name. He was a pitcher for Nebraska for a couple years in 2021. Anyway, goes 7 1/3, gives up a double. So 4 hits, no walks, 5 strikeouts, 7 1/3 innings. They pull his ass, and all hell breaks loose. And here comes the New York Mets. And it was downhill from there, Terry, in game 1. So
Schwellenbach.
That's it. Yep. He went 7 1/3, and they pulled him. They pulled him with 1 out and a man on second, or maybe no outs and a man on second. So he might have only gone 7, but whatever. No walks, 5 strikeouts, no runs, 4 hits against a pretty good Mets team. And when they pulled him, the dam broke. Just broke.
Yeah.
So, but the good news, Terry, what happened in game 2 of the doubleheader?
They blanked them. The Braves won 3-0, so they're both going.
They're both, and who's
It would have
not
been better.
scored?
The
Diamondbacks
not going,
are
yeah.
out.
Yeah, the
Three
Diamondbacks are
teams, 2 spots. The Diamondbacks are out.
We
And
wanted
yes,
the Mets
Bober.
to met, but they did not met as hard as we
So
wanted.
Bober's trying to bait me here.
Yeah. He says, you mean the team that lost 2 of 3 to the Pirates? Do you mean the Pirates that are playing golf?
Yeah, they're sitting at home.
The
But they do have this guy named Paul Skeens. Rookie season.
At least for now.
23
Until
starts,
he becomes a Yankee.
11-3 record, 1.96 ERA, 133 innings pitched, 170 strikeouts, 0.95 WHIP. Skeens will be a Yankee before it's all said and done because we have a checkbook. We use it. The ownership in Pittsburgh is awful and sent a man down for assignment 1 game before they were due $200,000. If he'd played in the game, they would have had to pay him $200K. They did not play. They did not pay. So fuck the Pirates ownership, not Mike Bober, because I do like Bober, even though he's trying to stir it up over here and he's messing with the wrong ones. I will hurt your feelings, Michael, and fuck hockey in case you forgot.
Oh, God.
Anyway, the Yankees, 94-68, 5-5, clinched the division, clinched the 1 seed, best record in the American League, and our man Aaron Judge, 322, 58 home runs, 144 RBI, 1.159 OPS, and listen to this, Terry, 0.458 on base percentage. It's disgusting. It's disgusting. So, Yankees have to bye. They'll be waiting 3 games to see who they play next. But the Braves will not.
They're going to have to keep scratching, and they don't have an easy team to play. The dang Padres that didn't look like a playoff team a few months ago, but stormed back. So,
well, they took the Dodgers all the way to the limit. The Dodgers ended up being the best team in baseball. And history was made this year when we wrap up baseball because the White Sox became the worst team in baseball officially, Terry. 121 losses. You probably didn't see it yet, but I sent you the owner's statement in Instagram, and he is certain that they are building a championship caliber team in Chicago.
I'll get it. I'll probably read it the day after the World Series. Yes.
At this rate, yeah, you're behind again. I don't know what you keep doing, but you're behind, Terry. But no, I think that the AL, we're gonna have. Who did we have in the AL? Detroit and Houston be a good series. Kansas City, Baltimore. Baltimore's probably going to win that one, but I think Detroit and Houston will be a good series.
We should have prepared to predict.
Maybe
we can do it next week and see where we are.
Yeah, give me Baltimore and give me Detroit because Allison hates Houston, and that's a good enough reason for me.
I'm just going to say the Padres are going to beat the Braves because I just don't see them doing much.
Terry, you don't bet against your own team.
I will, though. The Padres are going to beat the Braves, and the Brewers are going to wax that Mets ass.
I'll pick Auburn in the Iron Bowl this year. I don't care. But
Terry has become that guy. We didn't believe in Kalen DeBoer last year. He does not believe in the Milwaukee Brewers. So the Brewers are going to do it.
No, they're boring. They're good. They're just boring. Nobody wants to watch them.
130 run differential. They're boring. Hey, did you see with Ohtani's 20-run game or 10-run game last week? The Dodgers went to like 160 run differential as a baseball team.
Like, how do you even prepare to go against that? Like, how?
You can't.
You can't.
156. They're 156. The Brewers are 136. The Yankees are 147.
Such
147 run differential. And to Bober's point, that's taken 2 losses to Pittsburgh the last series of the season. And by the way, thanks to Cleveland for losing, it just made the job easier to go ahead and get the 1 seed. We appreciate you. But Terry, last thoughts on your baseball team, the Braves. Your ace sat out today. That's probably not a good sign.
It's not a good sign, especially when they needed him. But maybe it's something short-lived.
Well, he wasn't in the
Good up and
rotation
ready
for
to
the
go.
first game. It was the second game. They pulled him from the
Right.
second game.
Right,
So-
yeah. So they really needed him then. I would
But
have
to your
expected
point,
him
they-
to not pitch if they won the first game.
Yeah, I was going to say, to your point, they could have just put I don't want to call them the bench warmers, but the backup team, the younger guys. Because
Right.
to your point, if Atlanta wins the first game, they don't need to win the second. The same as New York didn't actually have to play anybody. They didn't have to play their best players today.
Right.
And then the Diamondbacks got left, on the outside looking in. So
Oh, well,
Anyway.
we don't want to stay up that late to watch any games anyway.
you're such a hater of the West Coast.
Those
and I
West
love
Coast
it.
teams out quick. Come on,
Oh,
Braves, beat the
man.
Padres. That's the reason I don't want to. That's the reason I want the Braves to win the most, so I don't have to wait on a really late West Coast game.
Okay, so you've got Brewers and Padres, or Brewers and Mets, Padres and Braves. I'm going Padres and Brewers, seriously.
Yeah, me too.
And it's just because I don't think the Braves have enough in the gas tank. And it's not,
think so.
no offense,
Too many
If-
injuries this year. Huh? It's just
Yeah.
how it is.
they don't have enough. They don't have enough.
But then they
And
might
Allison's
have a Mark
smirking
Lemke
over
this
there,
year out of
saying-
nowhere.
She says, I predict no one but the Yankees.
No,
Yankees are
I
winning.
can
No.
I can predict.
Yankees
I mean,
Win.
I would go with the Brewers, but I would take the Braves.
I'm going to look really foolish if I go against my team and then they win. But whatever. At least it's not Auburn.
Oh, my God. We got to talk about them in the second hour.
Second hour. Second
Oh,
hour. Let's talk
I've been
about-
preparing for that.
Terry's been doing my gimmick. He's got soliloquy ready. But I suppose, did something in wrestling happen last week? I don't remember.
I thought it did. It happened last week. It happened on the weekend. There was a lot of collision happening.
Oh, are we going to talk about AEW?
Oh, well, it was Grand Slam. That's what I mean. It was.
Do we
it was
have
Grand
to?
Slam, and it was. Andrew.
You know you love when I ask that question. AEW Collision. Allison's the wrestling fan for AEW here. I admittedly just hate watch them these days. What did you think of Grand Slam?
So it was
First-
on a Wednesday.
We were not correct. Let's just stipulate a couple of our predictions. We were not correct. But
They could have made this a pay-per-view. Instead, they filmed it all on one night and split it between Wednesday and Saturday. Do I think that was smart? No. Do I think it would have made a good 4-hour pay-per-view? No.
and even with the pay-per-view style, it was 700,000 viewers. Not that people necessarily care, but you're arguing fighting for money on a television program. So you've got to say, you may not care. Dave pointed it out last week. You may not care that you're only putting 2,000 people in every stadium or not stadium, but arena or show, whatever. But you better make sure you got eyeballs on it if you're trying to convince Turner Broadcasting,
Exactly.
hey, this is a good program to go ahead and back. 702,000 people watched Dynamite last week. I don't know Rampage or Collision, but I'm sure those numbers are far, far less
Oh, yeah.
because they're competing with Saturday Night Football, Alabama, Georgia. Get the hell out of here. Anyway, so just a couple things. I thought the tag match was a great match. I thought that Fletcher and Ospreay brought it out of the Bucks. I think the Bucks needed that match. Really surprised they don't put it on Ospreay just because he is the golden goose of AEW right now. But the Bucks needed that match more than Ospreay and Fletcher needed that match, in my opinion.
I agree.
Because I think they're just sliding backwards, personally. And then, of course, Brian and Nigel was what we thought, a technical wrestling match because they can't do all the high-impact shit with the injuries and all that stuff. It was a good match. It was a fine match. And then the last one, of course, Moxley beats Darby. Terry can weigh in on this.
Probably
They
not.
pulled up the mats, buddy. They pulled up the mats, and
Okay.
Darby went for one of his freaking dives, and Moxley moves, and he does a flat back, flip over, front flip. And then Moxley picks him up and does the suplex thing where he throws him so he doesn't carry him down. He just does the suplex, and then he throws him like bag of shit, and he did it on the steps. 2 bumps back to back. And everybody, I've pointed this out, and I've gotten some pushback from like, well, he wants to do it. You should just let him do it. Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Mm.
You're going to scrape him off of the – you've all seen Mick Foley. He can't hardly get up out of a chair these days.
That was the exact thing that happened.
Because he did those flatbacks. Now, granted, he's bigger than Darby. I get that. He was a lot bigger than Darby. He was 285. What do y'all think Darby weighs? $140? $150?
Goodness.
But the point being,
yeah.
he's not even doing just an ST plunge. You can ask Allison. He goes over the ropes and he misses completely, and he does it at high speed and lands on the exposed floor where they've pulled the wrestling mats up.
Google's saying 175, but that's hard to believe.
So subtract 25. He weighs $150. That's his television weight is 175.
Right.
Because there ain't no freaking way Jack Perry weighs 200 pounds. Sorry.
Unless he's carrying it somewhere we can't see.
Not a girl. That's what he said. But I think that the bumps, the unnecessary, that sort of stuff, they really have got to get these guys to stop. Even Jeff Jarrett jumped off of the rope onto a series of waiting guys during the lumberjack match Saturday.
How old is he now?
58, or will be 58.
That's it.
I mean, obviously he's taking care of himself, but 58 is 58.
That's 10 years older than me, guys.
On the top rope, out onto a bunch of waiting wrestlers, that spot that everybody loves so much.
Oh, yeah, that wonderful thing.
Yeah.
At least he was doing that, right?
Yeah, exactly. He knows how to sell. And then we get the damn what was the other match that happened? Okada versus Guevara.
Yeah.
That happened. It was not the anniversary, like I said last week. I thought it was the second day of Collision, though. It was the Collision. I didn't watch the match, Allison. Was it any good?
No, I didn't watch the match.
I watched it on Sammy Guevara's Instagram. What's that?
I watched the entrance of Okada.
Of course you did.
That's it.
Of course you did. Because the Rainmaker can get it, as I got a text saying about it.
Yes. There were 2 more matches. It was Hook and Roderick Strong and Mariah May versus Yuka.
I thought that match was okay. I thought the Hook Roderick Strong match was okay. I was glad to see them get rid of the FTW title.
Yes, so that was the big thing about that one.
Oh, that's good.
It with his dad, yeah, and I agree. I think that's good. It had its fun little run back. Time to put it back on the shelf. We're good.
Yeah, Terry, you will not get to beat Hook for the FTW title. No. I know you've been training. You've been training, but you will not have the opportunity to beat Hook for the FTW title, sir. Not this week.
All right. So one of the other things we did this week was we watched a lot of Netflix.
Oh my God! Does anybody know about Vinnie Mac? Vinnie Mac, anybody? Vinnie Mac in the chat. Did you watch Netflix? Did you like it? Did you hate it? We have a series of questions. Allison, go. Your turn.
No, I was going to say I thought it was going to be a lot more salacious than it was.
I read you both Vince McMahon's public statement about the Netflix yesterday. Or last week, not yesterday. Excuse me. Bober says he watched it all. We want your answers, Bober. I have questions. We're gonna get to them in a second. Based on Vince McMahon's public statement, I thought, oh God, they got the shovels out. They buried his ass. Here come the dogs because it's raining. I thought, oh God, they buried his ass. I personally did not think there was anything inside of that documentary that I necessarily learned. There were a couple of little tidbits. Outside of that, I didn't really think that there was anything really, really, really significant. And I don't think that this was for wrestling fans. And I guess that's my first question or point, Allison. Do you think that this was for wrestling fans or not?
Absolutely not. We know too much.
I agree with that.
We not only do we think we know too much, we actually know more than they told us in that documentary.
Well, and then when you look at who was included in the documentary,
Right.
it makes sense you're going to put Stephanie and Shane and Triple H and Bruce. We did not see JR, and we talked about how he was slightly offended by that, or seemingly on his podcast where I was closer to Vince than anybody. Why didn't they ask me, or whatever the hell it was he said? But Tony Atlas was a decision, I think. Phil
That was
Mushnick was a
definitely-
decision. The writer for was it New York Post or whatever?
I was excited to see Brian Gewirtz. I think he's amazing. So I was
Stone
happy to see
Cold and The
him.
Rock featured
Stone
in this
Cold.
one.
Hey, we didn't know he is kind of an idiot.
Stone Cold with the line, Terry, CTE does not exist.
Oh,
He
my
doesn't
God.
believe in it.
He doesn't believe in science, people. Good
Nope.
times.
He's done all the research on his ranch, right?
Apparently. When you've made as much money as he has, though, and you were as popular of a wrestler as he was, you can pretty much do anything short of shooting someone in New York City and get away with it. So
I was going to say, let Stone Cold handle the wrestling for the wrestlingers. I'm going to handle the science for the science people. We're good.
The
Thank you.
wrestlingers.
Mike Bober, was there anything that you learned that you did not know about Vince McMahon? Please put it in the chat if you're still with us, sir. I would have liked to see more Vince. What about you, Allison?
I'll tell you, there was one point in the documentary where I thought he was going to go off the rails, and I'm like, oh my God, here it is. I'm really excited. He's going to go off. He's going to tell us something new. But then I realized I am totally spoiled by having been part of these podcasts because that's what I'm used to. Anytime I see a wrestling person, they're going to tell me something behind the scenes secret. Vince, it was like, here's kind of a glimpse of how dirty I am. But, nope, I'm done.
Yeah. So when he opens it up with, they're like, I did not know much about Rita the Ref. Yeah. So the line on Rita, for anybody who hasn't seen it yet, this is not necessarily a spoiler because it's been all over social.
Yeah.
Well, even if I had raped her, the statute of limitations was up. What the fuck did he just say out loud? Like, what is wrong? And they didn't follow up with it.
Nope.
They just let it go. And I'm like, that man just did the OJ thing. If I did it, like when OJ wrote the book, if I did it, or, it said I did it, but it had the little baby if in it.
Right.
So the Rita Chatterton thing, to Bober's point, there was a little bit of information there. They glossed completely over the Ring Boy scandal.
Yep.
I think that means Pat was in on it. Pat probably was guilty of something because immediately Bruce Pritchard says he wasn't before there was ever a question asked. And Terry Garvin apparently is a piece of shit right along with the guy who was in charge of the Ring Boys. They skipped the IRS scandal. Heather Whitley, he almost seems proud of it. So I made this comparison to Medusa, and then I'm in another group chat, and I just want Allison's opinion. Have you seen A Few Good Men? You remember A Few Good Men with Jack Nicholson?
Mm-hmm.
So Tom Cruise is talking about how they're going to get Jack Nicholson to – or did I make that point already on this show?
We had the top 10 list, and we had that picture of Jack Nicholson on there with the voice.
So Jack Nicholson's Nathan R. Jessup is the name of his character. He's the commander of the Marines down in the Cuban Guantanamo Bay. And Tom Cruise says, well, we need to take him right where he wants to go. He ordered it, and he is fine with it, and he wants everybody to know he did it. He made a decision. You all deal with it. I said to Medusa, I think that Vince McMahon is Jack Nicholson. And that's exactly it, Bober. You're goddamn right I ordered the code red. So that is what I think Vince wanted to do because he has no remorse. If you listen to any of that 6 hours, no remorse, no regrets about anything that he did. And And I think the telling thing that, immediately Bruce is going to kiss ass. I get it. Anybody who's listened to Something to Wrestle With has listened to a Vince McMahon podcast by proxy. Bruce is Vince's proxy. That's just a fact. Bruce is a much more political, polite, cleaner version of Vince McMahon in the way he's going to tell what they did. But the stuff about he was proud of the fact he thought that getting Stephanie pregnant on television was a good idea. I'm like, Vince, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Yeah.
What was the other thing that really stood out? Oh, how he didn't think Taker was concussed at Mania. He just thought he felt bad because he ended the streak. Like, Vince, what are you? Anyway, I thought they needed more Vince because that was where this documentary really shined. And you hate to say that because Vince is such a piece of shit, or at least seemingly. But
you let him tell the story his way himself, and he's gonna tell it because
it was supposed to be a story though too about Vince McMahon. I don't need to hear what Triple H has already said on Vince McMahon's WWE documentary called McMahon. I don't need to hear what Stephanie is saying or even Shane. The only thing Shane added, I think, was the whole wanting to get a hug from his father sort of thing. And I mean, I get that, I do. But yeah, the last 30 minutes of the documentary where they get into the lawsuit, and there are people not willing to say her name. Her name is Janelle Grant. She filed a lawsuit. She had an NDA. She broke the NDA. And her accusation is that Vince broke the NDA because he didn't pay her. And now there's 132 pages of grotesque things that Vince McMahon has been accused of. Court will decide whether she's a victim or not. But the federal government is about to shove a microscope straight up Vincent Kennedy McMahon's ass. I agree with Heather there. And I'll button my comments up and let Allison finish. When Paul Heyman said the one monogamous relationship Vince McMahon has had in his life is to the World Wrestling Federation or World Wrestling Entertainment. That was a brilliant characterization of Vince McMahon, I thought, by Paul Heyman.
So I'm going to go off of Bober's comment here, which is I can't believe how much Vince treats Shane like Vince Sr. treated him. And then he goes on saying, I don't think he realizes it. Oh, no, he absolutely realizes it. His just like you said, Andrew, his first love is the wrestling business. It's not his wife. It's not his children. It's the wrestling business. And to me, that documentary, or whatever you want to call it, proved, if nothing else, that number one in his life has been and will always be wrestling.
Yeah, and I've just put it out on Facebook, and this is my final thoughts on it. It didn't go far enough. There wasn't enough Vince McMahon. If you're a wrestling fan, 90% of what's in there. Now, there was a little tidbit about where Vince was going to buy Vince Sr. out. And they always called him Vince Jr., despite the fact Vince McMahon has always said he's not a junior. So that name thing annoys me, but it's just a stupid thing. But I don't think you saw enough Vince. I don't think they went far enough. And what was the third big point I made, Allison? Do you remember Well, Vince McMahon is responsible for the thing that we love the most, and whether you hate him
Correct.
or not, whether he did all these things or not, professional wrestling would not be in the position it is in without Vincent Kennedy McMahon.
Yes.
And so for that, like a certain person that introduced the three of us, I owe a thank you, but that's where it starts and that's where it stops. I don't owe you anything more than that, except a thank you for the wrestling memories. All of the other stuff, gross. Anyway, sorry I went over time, Dad.
It's all right. Let's go straight to the
But
list.
you can check out the documentary, Terry. Like what Allison and I are saying. Don't not watch it because we're, quote, shitting on it or whatever. I'm just critical of it because they said they interviewed Vince for over 100 hours, and I certainly didn't see Vince McMahon for 100 hours or even anything remotely close to 100 hours on the program.
Goodness.
Nope.
So anyway.
Well, all right. Well, the other day, September 25th, I believe, was National One Hit Wonder Day.
Woohoo!
Terry,
And I started looking at the list of
You owe me an apology.
one-hit wonders on
You owe me an
Wikipedia.
apology, Terry.
What's that for?
What missed the list? The greatest one-hit wonder
Oh.
of all time. Actually, you owe me an apology for 2. I'm going to tell our fans, like I always do. I'm very honest. Our listeners, our viewers, we appreciate you all, and thank you for participating. But I made 2 suggestions to this list, and Terry did not put either one on there. The first is "Can't Touch This" by MC Hammer, and that was the heat. And nobody else can think of another MC Hammer song, so you know he's a one-hit wonder. The other song, which is more offensive, particularly to my childhood, is you did not put "Friends Forever" by Zack Attack on here from Saved by the Bell. And Terry, that is offensive to me. It was definitely a one-hit wonder. They did a whole 2 or 3 shows about Zack Attack
Oh.
on Saved by the Bell.
So my
Oh,
response,
Bober's got you.
he just
that
stole
was
my
a song.
thunder with that because I'm gonna say it anyway. My
Yes.
response to what you said there is, this list is too legit for that. Let's move along and go to number 10.
That was so good.
Number 10. Like
Oh,
that, Fred, I'm too sexy, and that's what I'm sporting over here. I'm too sexy for my hair.
that's right. All you need is a pair of sunglasses.
Oh my
And
God.
a kilt, apparently.
Well, yeah.
It was like
But-
18 words and they made it work. Good for them.
Well, that's just like too legit to quit. Yeah.
Oh,
Good one. Very good song.
That
I
is-
enjoy this.
that is phenomenal. I don't think I voted for this, but I definitely
did.
know the song. No, well, here's the thing too, and everybody that voted knows this. We broke it up in the 90s
Yeah.
because one-hit wonders wasn't going to work if you just did one-hit wonder. And Terry, how many did you and Allison come up with? I really did add 2 or 3, and they ignored them. Thank you, Terry, for that, by the way. That's the story I'm sticking with.
I don't know. I don't remember every week. So here's how it works. And I may go over this all the time just because I catch a lot of heat. Then I got to go, no, I showed you the list.
Not this time, bitches. It wasn't me.
I sent it to the RAM group, and all that stuff.
Oh God.
And then, so it's not just me, friends. What was I saying?
You were gonna give the process of how we do this.
So I try to go to Wikipedia. Wikipedia was good for this, and it had a huge list of 500 of them over the years. So I was like, we got to break this up into decades. We're going to do 80s later at some point. We chose 90s because I had that more formed. And then I do my lists. I sent both of the lists, the 80s and the 90s, to these two, and they give me some feedback. And normally I do what we agreed to. Maybe I skipped a step this week. I don't know. I was in a hurry, but then we put it out to the RAM group, and they give some feedback, and we ignore most of that, and and then we put the poll out, and we go with it.
I mean, he's honest. He's honest.
Very.
All right, what's number 9?
Number 9 is Digital Underground, the Humpty Dance.
The Humpty Dance. Dun-dun-dun-dun.
I loved this song. Okay, I'm gonna ask a question. Do you guys remember the movie with John Candy, where was it John Candy? No, Dan Aykroyd. All I know is this guy was in it. Digital Underground was in the movie. Now I'm gonna look it up. It was a weird freaking movie.
This guy was in a okay.
I want to say, hold on.
That one I'm
Gotta
not
look it up.
familiar with. I'll be honest with you.
Which what the song
No, the
or the movie?
No, there was a movie. Hold on. I don't mean to.
All right, you look it up
nothing.
and I'll go.
I got it. It's Nothing But Trouble. It's with Demi Moore, Chevy Chase, and John Candy.
I've
Holy
never
cow,
seen it,
that's scary.
honestly.
Okay, don't see it. It was really bad.
Okay.
But anyway. Okay.
And
just-
Dan Aykroyd
And Dan Aykroyd. There you go. Okay. Random show.
and
Random.
Peter Aykroyd apparently. All right, number 8. Semisonic, Closing Time.
Closing time.
This
Well,
is
Played
one
at
that-
every middle school dance in the 90s.
I'm
At least
sorry.
the late 90s.
It's from The Office
Okay.
also. It makes an appearance on The Office.
He just said middle school, right? This
Yeah.
song for me was when I was living in Florida, working full time.
Well,
my
you're
second
slightly older
job.
than I am, ma'am.
I know.
But, you
Oh
know,
my god. Okay. This was
she
the
likes younger
song that,
men.
well, I mean, but this is a song we played when we would go to the bar every time. This was the jukebox hit.
And it's their only hit. Like
It's their
that is
only hit,
legitimate. It's their
correct.
only hit. Their only hit.
Can I be
Yeah.
honest? Some of
Yes.
these bands, I'm going to see their pictures, and it's probably the first time I've even seen what they look like.
Yeah, I couldn't have picked these guys out of the lineup.
Nope. No way. Not in a million years. All right.
Number 7, Los Stelvio, Macarena.
Macarena. I had to look at the song. Yeah, I didn't even know when I voted for this because I did vote for this one because this is a one-hit wonder.
Oh, definitely.
Plus it came
100%.
plus it came with a dance, which is why MC Hammer Can't Touch This came with pants and a dance. But that's a whole nother story, Terry. Yeah, Macarena, absolutely. And I couldn't have told you who sang the song, but I knew at one point I knew every single word to the song. So
Bober's
Bober,
not a
don't
fan.
hate. You're old too. You're just a bunch of fun haters. Don't you need to drink your warm milk and get ready for bed? Put your slippers on.
This
sir.
came out when Bober was in his 40s.
Oh boy. All right.
Oh,
I didn't
we're getting
say
some
it.
heat tonight.
Number 6. You
Number
got
6?
more to say?
If we
No, I
do
was going to
this-
say, who's number 6, Terry?
I
Tell
was going to
us.
say, if we do this to our friends, imagine what we did to people we didn't like.
Touch
Oh,
myself. No,
I
there you
love
go.
this song.
Is that how you say divinals? Is that how-
Divinals, yeah.
Okay, I had no idea.
Fun
I remember
thing
the
about
song.
this song. Fun thing about this song. I love this song. I have this on multiple playlists, but this is also a song I cannot play in the car when the kid is there.
Yeah.
When I think
this is
about you, I touch myself.
I have to recognize the first few notes because then I'm like instant switch, you know?
Yep. It's not one that's obvious either. If
No.
you're not paying attention, like it is not obvious.
Correct.
That's the song.
Yep.
Until she starts. On time, on time.
This one and Damn I Wish I Was Your Lover.
Oh yeah.
Because
Mhm.
according to him, that's a curse word.
Oh my god.
What, lover? No, I'm just kidding.
Damn.
He's so weird.
know.
Chain restaurants only. No swearing. God.
He's an old
How
man.
is he-
I don't know what to
How
tell
is he
you.
your? How is he your?
I-
child?
It's all his father's influence. That's all I'm gonna say. Yes, yes, Bober. Sophie B. Hawkins. You are correct.
Top
All right.
5, Terry.
Let's
Who's
go.
number 5?
Number 5, tag team. Whoop, there it
Back
is.
again.
I
Yep.
mean, the funny part
Party out,
is,
party in, people.
do you know how long it took me to realize that Tag Team was the name of the group?
Not what they were doing. Tag team.
Well, it's in the song, so I just thought it was part of the song.
And some of this, I think, is because we like sports and stuff so much. But
We
yeah,
do
they
this all
just,
the
you
time,
know,
yeah.
The fact that they're
Halftime
on this
song.
list proves that they are not back again. This was the only time they were there.
Very good point. Very good point.
But the minute you hear the music, everybody
Mhm.
starts bumping. Everybody knows the lyrics. I mean, it is incredible
Absolutely agree.
how fast it does happen. You know,
That's what he said.
well, he definitely wasn't bragging about that.
Next,
Number 4. Lou
One day
Reed,
somebody is going to
number
ask
5.
us
I know.
who
Nope.
he is.
Nope.
Oh, and this
Um,
is
This is a
this
good
was
one.
way up on my. This might have been my number 1, honestly.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
One of these days, I'm
loved
going to remember
this.
how I voted. I love this song too.
This I mean, this was at the swing dancing, wasn't it? And I know this isn't swing dancing, but this was
I
like right
mean-
around that same time, wasn't it?
What are you thinking,
There's
like-
another one that wasn't on.
You thinking Zoot Suit Riot from?
Zoot Suit
Yes,
Riot.
I am.
Yes,
I am.
yes.
Yeah.
That's what I. So that song and this song came out right at around the same time, I think.
That
Cherry
wasn't.
I
Pop
it.
and
was-
Daddy.
See,
The
this
name
is our
of the
struggle.
band was Cherry Pop and Daddies.
Cherry-
This
Zoot
is the
Suit
thing. It's
Riot.
like this is our struggle. I go and I get a list of 500 songs on Wikipedia, and Zoot Suit Riot is not on that list.
Yeah.
How is that my fault?
And apparently neither was Friends Forever, despite the fact there was a text message talking about
But
Zack
Ozzy
Attack.
Osbourne was on the list somehow.
Ozzy Osbourne. Yeah, well, I mean, who ever heard of War Pigs or Crazy Train? or any of the other songs?
Well, some of that stuff is going to be in bands, but still, he had more than one. I mean, come on.
Yeah. Well, if he was a member of Black Sabbath, I'm not calling Ozzy Osbourne a one-hit wonder, regardless of how we
Right.
define it, sir.
There is
Thank
Correct.
you.
There is that.
Correct.
Number 3,
Number 3 on the board.
Technotronic.
Oh,
Pump
this-
Up the
Jam.
Now this right here was my jam in high school. Like this was it. This was
Pump
fantastic.
up the jam. Up the jam.
Oh, and there's a lot of videos on TikTok of people putting jam on a little jack or
Poor
whatever.
pigs. He's got good taste, Carla, but there are better
Carla's-
rock bands
yeah.
than Black Sabbath. No offense to our man.
Yeah.
That'll be a
There
good
are
one.
better
We need
rock
to do
bands.
that.
We go
We
ahead.
need
We
to
can
do
get
that.
that
We
list
need-
started too, Terry. Let's
We
go.
did hair
Let's
Yeah.
go.
bands.
Yeah.
All right.
We did,
Let's
yeah.
go.
We did do hair bands, didn't we? See, I'm
But we
forgetting.
didn't do rock
I'm going to
bands.
suggest stuff
No.
we've already done at some point. The more we do these lists, we don't.
As
We had
long
to
as we-
document these things.
As
We were
long as we
supposed
stick
to,
to
I
food,
tried.
we'll have plenty to argue about.
We can argue about anything, Andrew.
This is
We've
true. We're
proven
New
it.
Yorkers.
Or maybe when we get better at this, we'll redo some lists that we screwed up
There you
before.
go.
Number
be.
2, Sir Mix-a-Lot,
How,
Baby Got
what?
Back.
How
It's
is
the
my
only one he
song-
ever did.
Yes.
We were
this was
recently at a wedding where this
Well,
played. That's a
Number
true
1's going
story.
to be debatable, but whatever.
All right. This
But
was my
everybody
number
knows
one.
I like big butts and I cannot lie.
But I could not find a clear picture of this, so this is pretty fuzzy.
Well,
Yeah.
and this song is a lot older than people think it is.
Oh.
I think, because it came out in like 92. And you can check me on that, Allison, but I'm pretty sure this was 92. And like, I know there are people that thought, oh, this song came out in the early 2000s or the mid 2000s. No, it
92.
didn't. It absolutely did not. This is a 1990s version.
So, unfortunately, this is another song that I have to do the quick go by, for Lex.
Oh, yeah.
Especially for the first part where it ends with because she's just so black, and I'm like, I love my son, but he may not understand that.
Oh, yeah.
Like
She
it's
looks
just
like
a song.
total
It's just
prostitute.
a song. Yeah,
She looks
exactly.
like a rap guy's
Uh,
girlfriend.
And I have to explain what every one of these lines means, and I'm like, it's just a song, Lex.
It's just a song. It's just art. It's
just
just art. And this will be a nice segue when we get to the RAM network for tomorrow. But yeah, it's
Yes.
just art, guys. Everybody settle down. Take a breath. Be fine.
All right, what's number one?
All right, number 1's going to be debatable, but I'm throwing it out there. Vanilla Ice, Ice Baby. I know he
I
has
mean-
some stuff, but we're
It's
talking
not
this.
debatable.
No, I'm all right with this being number one.
Except because I am a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles fan.
I knew that.
He
was
did have Go Ninja, Go Ninja, Go.
Okay, do you know any
Similar
other part
enough
of that
to
song
Vanilla
besides
Ice.
Go
There
Ice
is no other
Baby.
part of that song. It's just Go
Exactly.
Ninja, Go Ninja,
No,
Go.
no. Ice Ice Baby? I'm pretty sure that all three of us could probably, if the song
Stop.
was on, we could-
Collaborate and listen. Ice is back with the brand new invention.
something grabs a hold of me tightly. Yeah, I mean, come on. We could do this all day. Trust me. So I think this deserves its number one spot.
Uh-oh. Carla
What?
says his bands weren't on your list.
Oh,
Well,
yeah,
this was
Everett's
one hit
bands.
wonder, so yeah, which is probably true.
All right.
Yeah, but Vanilla Ice leaves his music career. Didn't he become like a home
He's a
remodel guy on
handyman,
HG television?
Yeah.
You know, Allison, I think when we were in Charlotte or Atlanta, we watched this show featuring one of the new kids on the block. And
Jonathan.
they were not a one-hit wonder, as I
No.
was told yesterday, that we could not talk.
Oh, they didn't have a
About-
hit? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I said it was the right stuff.
Oh,
She thinks that there is more than one New Kids song, and
Okay.
the good news is we saved the debate because that's a 1980s version.
Yes.
I
And we've
suppose.
already done boy bands, so
Yeah.
We've already done boy bands,
That's,
and they got number 3 on the list. If you remember right, the voters got that right. New Kids, and then NSYNC, and then the Backstreet Boys,
You
the way
didn't know
God
Oh,
what-
intended. She's having a fucking
I hate
hot
you
flash.
so much right now. My producer is pissed next week is gonna be Terry.
They had a
Okay.
hit. Oh,
Let me run it down. Woo. Number 10, Right Said Fred. Number 9, Digital Underground, Humpty Dance. Number 8, Semisonic. Number 7, Los Del Rio. Number 6, Divinals. Number 5, Tag Team. Number 4, Lou Bega. Number 3, Technotronic. Number 2, Sir Mix-a-Lot, who had a great song on the Beavis and Butthead album. I will just say that. And number 1, Vanilla Ice.
Vanilla Ice, baby. That is phenomenal.
That was fantastic.
That's a great list. We also already have the one-hit wonders of the 1980s list started. Somehow we're going to slip "Friends Forever" by the Zack Attack in on that list, since Terry left it off of this list.
Oh my God.
I mean, Saved by the Bell was church, dude, especially after school. Okay, so we have a couple minutes. This was not in the notes.
Okay.
2 deaths today. Mutombo and Pete Rose. What the hell is going on?
Yesterday
And that's
was
after a
Chris
few
Christopherson.
others. Yeah.
Maggie Smith died last
Maggie
week.
Smith,
Chris
yeah.
Chris Christopherson died yesterday.
Yeah. I don't know what's happening. This is crazy.
And hold
Pete
on.
Rose.
Anybody that's been a Days of Our Lives fan also knows
Oh, yeah.
that Greg Hogerson died. He played both the fake Roman
Yep.
and John Black. And he was one
Yep.
of my Meemaw's favorite. And he did all kind of crazy stuff with his eyebrows.
Yep.
Yeah,
Anyway,
I mean, it's absolutely crazy. Mutombo died this morning of brain cancer at 58.
58.
Pete Rose died probably bitter, angry, pissed off, and ready to chew nails at 83. So,
Okay. And
but
Maggie
Mutombo
Smith,
will always be known for the finger wiggle. Don't ever, nobody give it. Hey, he was fun to watch when he played
was great.
basketball. He was really fun, and I don't think it takes him 2 or 3 years to put Pete Rose at Cooperstown. I think now that he's dead, they'll put him in.
I think so. I think you're right.
But
he belongs.
lost 2 big, no pun intended, with Mutombo, 2 big stars. I mean,
Yeah.
in their sports, and controversial or not, Rose left his mark, and Mutombo, of course, class act, advocate, ambassador for the NBA. So, kind of sad, especially since he was what do they call it now? He was out of the Democratic Republic of the Congo, wasn't he? So, he grew up during Civil War and all that stuff, came to the United States and made it, played basketball. So I'm pretty sure it was the Congo, Terry.
I'm going to look it up real quick just so we know.
Well, you're looking it up to clarify whether I'm right or wrong, which is okay because I'm wrong a lot. Who's never wrong?
You were
Dave
right.
Dave in the HSV. Timmy is a second close to never wrong either. And I don't know about TJ because he and I don't interact as much as the other two. But they're on the RAM Network this week for Filter Free Popcast, the guys that are never wrong. And they're talking about Oasis dropping a new album, What's the Story, Morning Glory. Leaving Las Vegas premieres. 1995 World Series, that was a barn burner. And this week's deep cut is Bobby Riggs' death. Terry, I believe, did the Braves win the 95 series or did they lose the 95
That's
series?
the one they got. With
the
all
one they
those division championships, they got the 95 World Series.
With the greatest pitching team ever assembled on God's green earth.
They
No offense
needed-
to your Yankees there, Allison, but Glavine, Schmaltz, and help me out. Glavine, Schmaltz,
Maddox.
Avery,
Maddox.
and Maddox,
Maddox.
all on the same team. It's unfair.
And then they added Chipper Jones at that point because he was
Yeah.
That's right.
Third
going to be a
baseman,
rookie
yeah.
when the strike happened, and then it carried over.
Hell of a player. Talking wrestling with Pondwater Dave and Amy. Tomorrow they'll be talking about Mr. McMahon, the recap. And because we talked about some one-hit wonders like Sir Mix-a-Lot tonight, and I like big butts, and she's a black guy's or a rapper's girlfriend, looks like Total Problem, whatever. Controversial song lyrics. Apparently our girl Amy took it a little... She did not necessarily understand the assignment, so we'll find out how much fun they had with that. After a very long version of last week's show, they had Mike Dawkins on talking about patents and trademarks. So it went a little longer than they thought, and they didn't get to finish up. Hard Times and Beyond. Dave and I might get an episode recorded before he's leaving again. Something, I don't know. And Ballers. Terry, they're stealing our gimmick. They're handicapping football games. I've tried to tell them, but they don't listen. So, I don't know. I don't know if they wanted to handicap any of this weekend's football games that we just saw but I guess our audience will find out in 3 to 5 minutes. Because we're going to be back in an hour for an hour or two of
That's
football.
And
All right,
Anthony
well, let
is
me
the
wrap
lead
it up.
trying to cut him off. Woo, can't wait.
Great list, guys. Thanks. Like we said, that was a 90s list. We always have something that's missing. Y'all have learned that. We will have an 80s list. I don't know, maybe a 2000s list at some point, but 80s and 90s were
We do
the good stuff
2000s.
for us.
There's going to be a lot of who? What?
Yeah, like,
'Cause-
what does this? Yeah.
And thanks to our listeners, Carla and Everett, we will be able to do a rock music list. So probably going by decades, folks. 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, and we're skipping today.
Yep.
Did I say that out loud?
That's probably, that's
Probably
almost
the
like
still
the,
bands. The same bands.
and Aerosmith's in every one of them.
God bless Steven Tyler.
Kiss sure is. No. Didn't I
Steven
hear
Tyler
they
didn't need the
stopped
sex
touring?
change to change genders.
No.
He just looks like somebody's old Southern
Oh,
grandma now.
God, I love you.
Okay, great list, guys. Thanks for voting. We'll try to get it out early. I don't ever do that because I'm doing other, I'll try.
And we try not to repeat topics, so don't think next week we're doing the 80s top
Yeah.
10 one-hit wonders.
Maybe, we are eventually going to repeat a list and somebody's going to call us on it because,
Can't wait.
yeah, maybe we'll do it better the second time. All right. Well, anyway, if you're going to hang around for the football show, give us a few minutes. It's been a great show, guys. Thank you. Thanks everybody for showing up and the comments and the help there, even Bober. But as always, love your people. Tell them you love them. Make it weird. See you in a few minutes, everybody. And I am muted, and you didn't hear any of that. And hello, welcome to TNA Top 10 Week 5 football show. And I was going to make sure Andrew was unmuted, but you know.
I
life
beat
gets
Terry
to-
to the mute button this time, and then he didn't unmute himself. We're back.
Okay, welcome for Week 5. Let's
Football
run it down.
time, Terry. Listen. I couldn't have been more wrong about this week in football. And that's why I love it so much. So
I think the biggest thing I was wrong about, we heard that about UNLV and all the stories of the guys redshirting on purpose because of the NIL, and we thought, oh, we picked UNLV to beat Fresno, but now all their best players are tapping out. Didn't seem like it mattered.
no, but to your point, there's a red shirt mass exodus. And so for people that don't necessarily know what we're talking about, it is possible for a player to redshirt if they have not played more than 4 games. And several players, a Washington player, a couple UNLV players, including the quarterback and a running back, several others across the country have decided that they're going to go ahead and redshirt. The USC defensive back, wasn't it? I think, or defensive tackle. He redshirted. They've decided they're not going to play. They're signed to NIL deals. They've already entered the transfer portal previously, and now they've decided they're not going to play. We are in a completely foreign, unknown, uncharted, whatever adjective you want to use, world of college football, Terry. Because it's one thing to pay your player. It's another thing for them to say, well, you know what? I don't think I'll be playing the rest of the season.
That's right. And yeah, I don't know. As we've always said, it's going to end up in the courts. Things are going to be changed and not decided by the NCAA. So they've got to be careful how they react to some of this stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't have a good I don't necessarily have a good solution to the problem either, other than something you have said, and I would agree with. 5 years, that's it. You're in, you're out. Bye.
Yeah.
No red shirts. You got hurt. Sorry. You've got that year of eligibility is gone.
Right. So everybody gets an extra one.
A couple weeks ago, we had 2 7-year quarterbacks squaring off against each other. 7 years.
Right.
This past weekend, the Louisville quarterback, and I forget his name, but Fromm's quarterback is a 6-year senior. 6 years. He's been in college. He's 25 years old. I believe they said on the broadcast, Terry, that he's married. The guy's married and playing football in college. So
I think Bo Nix was married. I don't know. I may be wrong about that.
Well, he was either married or engaged, but the kicker for Alabama.
He had a grandkid. Yeah.
Same way. Yeah. So, so there's that. That's going to be a legal issue. Dave may not like this, but we love Dave. What the fuck has happened to Florida State? And this goes into what we're talking about here with the transfers and the red shirts. Right. Florida State built a super team because they got left out of the playoff last year. Mm-hmm. This super team is 1-4.
Right.
This is a free fall. And Terry, we've both been on the receiving end of having bad football teams in recent memory.
Yep.
But you talk about going from 13-0, now 13-1 if you want to count the Georgia game, to 1-4. That is a remarkable fall with the same head coach. Granted, the players are different. The names have changed. But this is a team that supposedly had 5-star recruits, paid a lot of money from whatever the name of their NIL is there in Tallahassee.
Right.
And now you've got a quarterback who is hurt.
Like tip of the spear or something like that. I'm going to look that up.
When did they stop with the extra year because of COVID? That's a good question, Bober.
I think this is this group that's going through right now, that's the seniors, is the last ones.
Well, there you go. But my point about Florida State is they had built this team, and they have really just not got it done. Not got it done in Tallahassee.
Apparently, it's the battle's end. I don't know where I got this idea of tip of the spear.
Well, that would have been really good, though. That sounds like a lot better name. Chief Osceola or
Osceola.
Osceola. He would have loved that, the tip of the spear. But yeah, I don't know. Florida State's got serious problems. But this again goes to the point. Build a program, don't build a team.
Well, that's where we
program.
talk about
Don't build a football team.
2011 and 2014 Auburn. They weren't that great.
But in
It's the same
2010,
kind
they
of
won the
thing.
national championship. In 2013, they almost won the
Yeah,
national
they were a minute from it.
Yeah. So, anyway, last topic. Well, two topics before we jump into the top 10 or the preview. Importance of 4 downs this year, Terry. Georgia went 5 for 5 in the Alabama game on 4th down. Now, they had to, but it is a 4-down game. And you're seeing already early in the season a lot more teams going for it on 4th down. Utah went for it on 4th down 4 times, got stopped 4 times. Utah does not beat Arizona. So just, now Georgia didn't beat Alabama. We're going to get into the reasons for that too, but they were successful 5 for 5 on 4th down. 5 for 5 versus 0 and 4. But 4th down has become, I think, a lot more important in this season's football. I don't know if you've noticed it at all, but there's a lot more teams going for it on 4th down already, and we're 4 to 5 games in, depending on the schedule.
This is a money ball in college football. You're going to do things different.
No, I think that you are right. The analytics are saying on 4th and 1 or 4th and 2, you go for it.
Yeah, I mean, there's that one guy, I don't know if it's a high school or small college, that never punts, always does onside kicks, and always goes for it on 4th down.
Yeah.
I don't know what his record is, but that's intense.
But it's aggressive. That's what that is. That is aggressive. We'll have some more comments on Florida
State
on 4 downs in a minute, but we might as well get into it. The last thing is the influence the officials are having on the game, and I can't think of a better example of this, Terry, than Virginia Tech, Miami,
right,
Friday night. For anybody that saw the game, you feel free to weigh in our chat here. The end of the play, Hail Mary, 7 guys in the end zone. Touchdown is called for Virginia Tech. Upon review, it is overturned. Now, the only way in college, according to the rule, to overturn it is indisputable video evidence, which, in my opinion, there was no indisputable video evidence of the touchdown being overturned.
Right.
Now, if they had called, Terry, an incomplete pass, I'd have said the exact same thing. There was no evidence to overturn the call, is my point.
Yeah, I think they definitely don't do that. They definitely do not do the reviews that way.
By overturning the call, though, Miami remains undefeated and in the top 10. And that's the other topic, just to mention briefly. And we're going to get it. Then we'll go to the review. You can hit your slides because I know you've got them ready. AP poll, college coaches poll. In the AP poll, Alabama is 1, Texas is 2. In the coaches poll, Texas is 1, Alabama is 2. For the first time I can remember, Terry, from then on out, 3 through 10 in both polls, identical.
That's interesting.
Identical. The only difference is number 1 and number 2. But 3 through 10 are identical in both the coaches and the AP poll.
Well, I can tell you they're not identical in the TNA top 10. They're not.
Bober says, for once I agree with Andrew. See, every once in a while, Bober, I get it right. At least from your point of view. And fuck hockey, we're talking football. Terry, let's talk football from this weekend. What happened?
All right, we got Virginia Tech, Miami, just like we were talking about. 38-34 after that Virginia Tech touchdown got called off. Good game all around here.
Sloppy game on Miami's part. They did not look great. I watched this game, of course. Skipped SmackDown on Friday to watch football. Virginia Tech and the U is a historic rivalry. Great football rivalry, particularly when Beamer was there, when it was Big East. But Virginia Tech brought it. I mean, they brought it. And you can see they brought it because Miami's got 508 yards of total offense. They've got what's his face? The one they think is going to win the Heisman, Cam
Ward.
Well, Cam Ward. They've got Cam Ward, but he got 2 fumbles. He threw an interception. one of the things about the turned over play at the end of the game, 100% Mario Cristobal was stunned, and he about got caught with his pants down when the interviewer was interviewing him. Maybe you could tell he didn't have the poker face on, that he was surprised they overturned that call. And now they've got a 10:30 date with California, I think, that we'll preview later in the show. So Virginia Tech drops to 2-2. Good football team, though. I mean, they're going to play hard. Yeah. They played hard against Miami. Hopefully that's not a demoralizing thing for them. Their coach was coaching them up the whole time. Because here's the deal. They came into this game an 18.5-point underdog, and it took a referee's bad call to take the game away from them. They beat Miami Friday night.
Right.
Bottom line. Beat Miami Friday night. Anyway. Up next
is Georgia, Alabama. Let's go ahead and get into it.
Woo!
What a game this was. I mean, 3 different storylines here. Bama just starts off putting it on them, and you didn't know what it was going to be. Then Georgia just storms back. Unfortunately, they didn't win it at the end.
Well, they dug themselves a 21-point hole to start the game with, which is very uncharacteristic of anything Kirby Smart does. Alabama had a play for everything. Ryan Williams, 17 years old, is the real deal and plays with a maturity level that is insanity. There's a reason that Kalen DeBoer made him a priority to get. When Saban retired, Williams was at the top of the list of players we need to make sure we have. There's a reason for that. Here's something very uncharacteristic of both teams, though, Terry. 500 yards apiece of total offense.
Right.
75 points scored in this game.
They can do it when they need to.
We talked about it last week. Jalen Milroe can do everything from the empty set to the trips to the, he can hit every pass, wheel, slant, go, curl. And then Carson Beck. The interesting thing is Georgia loses by a touchdown. They have 4 turnovers. And that last 10 minutes of the fourth quarter, if y'all got Hulu or anything like that, is totally worth watching again because Georgia is coming hard, and Alabama had an answer for most of it.
Man, that looks like an Auburn game. Bunch of turnovers and lose by 1 score.
Mm-hmm. Well, very uncharacteristic of Georgia, though, to not play strong. And obviously, Kirby Smart and his DC did their job in the second or in the halftime, during halftime, Terry, because Alabama scores 11 points in the second half, and those last 8 did not come till the last, 2 minutes and 20 seconds of the game or something. It was right at the end. Other thing I will say, with this win over Georgia, Alabama obviously catapulted to the number 1 spot in the AP poll.
Mm-hmm.
But Kalen DeBoer is officially the head coach of the Crimson Tide. The Saban era is over. Now, you'll never, ever, ever get rid of the Nick Saban impact that he had in Alabama, let alone college football. I mean, the man won 6 national championships there as the head coach in 17 seasons. Only lost 29 games. Sent 50 people to the NFL in the first round. You can run all you want with everything that he did. But as of Saturday night, this team belongs to Kalen DeBoer. And I don't think that's even disputable.
Yep, and I've seen articles already saying that they're in better shape with him than they would have been if Saban had stayed. Maybe there's some truth to that just because he's the future.
Well, in 17 years, you do the same thing, the same program, the same system. At some point, people are going to find cracks and chinks in the armor.
Right.
And Kalen DeBoer, and this will be my final thought on this, has won everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
South Dakota, he won at Fresno, he won at Washington. You know the difference between those programs and Alabama, obviously, Terry. Alabama's got 18 national championships and a multi-million-dollar budget. You know what those other schools don't have? Any of that, with the exception of Washington does have a national championship, but not 18. So my point is, now you're giving a guy who's used to operating on limited resources at best a wide open checkbook and saying,
Right.
go win us football games, you know? Alabama might have the inside track to the SEC championship game now because Georgia still has to play Texas and Tennessee and several others. But anyway, let's move on to the next game.
Next game, Kentucky goes into Oxford and comes back with a win. And we kind of hinted at it last week, not guessing that they would win, but just knowing that Stoops has a good defense. But
You and Dave did. I
expect
said that Ole Miss would win by 35 points. Reason being, it was time for Lane to put the foot on somebody's throat, and it was in Oxford, and it was Jackson Dart. And Mark Stoops, excuse me, Mike's his brother. Mark Stoops just showed why you can never overlook the University of Kentucky. I'd say this is their biggest win since they beat Florida in 2007, where Tebow gave the speech after the game. They put the speech on the wall there in Gainesville.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure this has got to be their biggest win since they knocked off Tebow in Florida back in 2007.
But so far this year, Kentucky's not undefeated, obviously. But they had a 1-point game with Georgia, and then they go into Oxford and win.
And look at what they did. 261 total passing yards for Ole Miss, which is air raid.
Right.
Lane Kiffin's going to throw the ball, but he only threw the ball 27 times against Kentucky's defense. And Jackson Dart is a top contender for the Heisman Trophy, or he was before this particular game. And Kentucky didn't do anything glamorous, Terry. They just played their game. They just played their game.
Right.
And that's what they do. Anybody that watches SEC football, Kentucky is probably – there's a couple of them that are this way, but Kentucky and A&M are those teams that you don't want to just say we're going to beat. And Georgia's got one coming up too with South Carolina. You got to be very careful with those three teams. Anyway, who's up next, sir?
Next is Illinois at Penn State, and this Penn State 21-7, 2 turnovers by Illinois.
Pretty low-scoring affair. Penn State's defense is as good as we thought they were. Obviously, they got the interception, got the fumble, held Illinois to 1.1 yards rushing and only 185 yards passing. And it was in Happy Valley, so Penn State should win. But this was a real slow back-and-forth game. And again, the refereeing, both Belima and James Franklin, losing their mind over some of the calls that were being made in this particular football game.
All right. Well, I mean, Illinois has looked good this year. So it's a good win for Penn State. We always talk about Penn State not being able to win the big one. So this isn't quite the big one. They got some of those coming up, but a good win for Penn State.
It's a good win because Illinois is always a team. This is the team that took them to 7 or 9 overtimes, whatever it was. This was that game, Terry. The Illinois is always a team that plays Penn State tough. So it's a good win for the Nittany Lions, and they'll move on.
Speaking of moving on, let's go to Arizona, Utah. You spoke of this one earlier. Utah with a backup quarterback, Isaac Wilson, Zach Wilson's brother. Arizona 23-10 win here.
Yeah, and it came down to turnovers, and it came down to 4th down, and Arizona came up on the better end of both of those things, and Utah just could not. Without Cam Rising, Utah's not the same football team. Right. And we saw that last year, and we've seen that this year now. But it's time for Cam Rising to graduate and for Kyle Whittingham to find somebody else to play quarterback because it's just not working anymore.
It's not.
So a lot of football left to be played, but Rising was possibly available last week against Oklahoma State, and I didn't see any injury report update, so I had assumed, particularly when we discussed it, that I thought, well, Utah will win now that Rising's back. Well, if he's not in the game, that offense is not anywhere close to where it's supposed to be.
I think he's out in the next game, too. I think they've already announced Wilson.
Have they?
Yeah. All right, let's move on. We got Louisville and Notre Dame. Notre Dame's looking pretty good. I mean, another win. They jumped out early. 31-24 Notre Dame. But 283 yards of offense, but they still manage a win here.
Leaned on their defense, and they leaned on Al Golden calling good blitzes against Jeff Fromm. Jeff Fromm's offense was a little bit confused. You can see that offensively, Louisville had the ball a lot more. They got a lot further down, but every time we get close, there would be a blitz. There would be something that would stop them, and Louisville just did not have enough in the gas tank to beat Notre Dame at home. Another game I called early, thought that Notre Dame would lose, but only by a field goal. Well, Louisville had opportunities to win this football game. They just didn't get it done. And Notre Dame's defense is the backbone of that football team, from what I saw.
And they're making it work. So let's move on to Oklahoma State, Kansas State. And this is one you talked about earlier. It's like we thought Oklahoma State was going to get pissed off and start winning some games because I know that I predicted them to win the Big 12 this year. I don't remember who you did, but
Utah.
That's right.
Yeah, because Cam Rising was healthy. We won't make that mistake again. But Kansas State.
State puts it on them.
You're in Manhattan, and this is the thing, though. They're pretty even offensively when you're looking down, but 2 interceptions ain't going to get it done. And then the rushing attack, Terry.
300 yards.
At 300 yards, that means you're controlling the line of scrimmage. And you and I both know. I don't have to tell anybody. That's 35 times you held the ball at 8.8 average. That's just dominance. 8.8 a carry means you're getting up on the second level immediately. Yeah. And you're just beating teams up. Now, this is a game that I did not see a whole lot of. I saw some highlights, and I was completely stunned because at one point Kansas State was up bigger than 22. I think they were up either 42-13 or 42-10 or some shit like that. I'm like, what in the world are they doing? No, they were. Yeah, that's exactly right. They were up 35-10.
35-13.
35-10. Or 13, 35-13 is what they were up going into fourth quarter. Anyway, wasn't a game worth turning on at that point, but completely shocked. But Kansas State had a nice bounce back after their, early season trouble. So we'll see what they do from here on out.
All right. We got Florida State, SMU. And, if Hugh Freeze doesn't get things going in Auburn the way we want him to, we got a guy coaching SMU here that's been at Auburn before. Maybe that's who they'll go after. Big win here, big numbers.
Well, this is what I know. As we talked about in the open. Florida State is not getting it done, and it is a colossal collapse. And
they're giving up.
Yeah. SMU isn't even in their caliber in terms of recruiting, facilities, NIL ability. There's no comparison here. This should be a game you win basically because you have resources they don't. And you look at these numbers, Terry, and then you come out with an injury to the hand of your starting quarterback who now has been reported that it'll be multiple weeks that DJ will not be playing for Florida State as the starting quarterback. Going into Clemson, which we're going to preview here momentarily. Yeah, Florida State's in trouble. They might have a losing season for the first time since Bobby Bowden first came to Tallahassee. Pretty sure that's right. They haven't had a losing season since Bowden went to Tallahassee. They might have had one in between with one of these other coaches, but they haven't had many. They haven't had many if they've had any at all since Bowden's first year in Tallahassee. And I think he went like 5-5 or whatever, 5-6, something like that. But anyway,
Dave 3 interceptions, same story.
And he'll text me that I'm wrong about it. It's okay. 3 interceptions. Again, not rushing the ball either. 2.9, you're not control. And look at SMU over here. Balance. 254 passing, 226 rushing, 4.8 yards a carry. Terry times 3 is first down. That's all it matters. It's first down. It's first down. It's first down. And if your defensive line is getting tired, we've talked about on both sides of the ball, Florida State is suspect on the offense and defensive lines. And with some of these schools, if you've got the ability to run the ball, all you're going to do is run it down someone's throat in the third and fourth quarter. You're going to score points. You're going to win football game. And SMU did that 7-7, and then you see it 14-14. They never let up off the gas on Florida State.
Yeah, Florida State couldn't run the ball very well, like you said. But then, 12 of 34 passing is well below 50%. Even if you throw those interceptions in there and count them, that's still not halfway.
No, it's not even 30%. It's trash. But I had said DJ was not good at Clemson. He was okay at Oregon State, and he's not good here at Florida State. So whatever it is about the ACC, he does not like it. What is our next game, Terry?
Nebraska at Purdue. Why don't you tell us about this one? Late heroics there, right?
Oh, buddy, I was going to eat glass. I went after work. I went to the gym. I lifted heavy, and then I worked out 45 minutes on inclines on the treadmill until I couldn't walk anymore. It was 0-0, as you can see at halftime.
Yeah.
But Nebraska had over 200 yards of total offense. They dominated the game. They just weren't closing. They had a 7 points called back, touchdown anyway. It would have been 7 points called back for a pick play. So last week, before this, they got called for offensive pass interference for setting a pick. That's illegal in college ball. The receiver pulls up and deliberately runs out of the defender's way so he doesn't get called for a pick. They call the pick anyway. They review the play and call it a pick, and that the play stands. So that wipes 7 off the board. 2 bad snaps on a field goal. That wipes 6 off the board. Missed field goal, there's another 3. Nebraska left at least 16 points on the board in the first half. Second half, they come out, and Dylan Raiola does his thing. Pick 6, ices it down 28-10. Nebraska's not interested in being showy or being flashy. They're interested in winning football games. And, I know style points matter sometimes, Terry, but this was an ugly game. Here's the other thing that you don't have on this graphic. Between both teams, 25 penalties, 260 yards. 260 yards of penalties. Now, my title here says I don't complain about officials, ... Do you know how difficult it is to watch a football game with 25 penalties, 260 yards of total penalties on both teams? Nebraska got 5 first downs by pass interference because Raiola was doing the pro-style football. He was throwing it to the spot where either his receiver was going to catch it or it was a defensive pass interference. Right. That's all fine and well, but I just want the receiver to catch the thing and earn the first down. I don't want to take the cheap way out because there's going to be good defenses that are going to be able to play a little bit better defense than Purdue did, and you're not going to get the call. Get the reception. Don't get the penalty. That's my takeaway. They got Rutgers coming in, which we'll preview here, but it was a good road win. It was a good bounce back after Illinois. They started slow, but they really turned it up. And the thing is, box score doesn't tell you everything.
Right.
They were in full control of this game the entire time. The offense of Purdue had nothing for the Black Shirts this week.
All right, good win. And move forward. And you said Rutgers this week?
5-0 Rutgers coming to Lincoln.
That's right. Rutgers is looking good. Let's go ahead and start talking about Auburn here. They had control of this game pretty much the whole time. You can look at the stats here. 482 yards of offense. The defense gave up less than 300 to Oklahoma. 338 passing yards. And then we talk about Peyton Thorne, and he played well until he didn't. And all right, this is soapbox moment here. So, Auburn fans are bickering with each other on Twitter back and forth. There's a lot of complaints about even the defense, giving up some 3rd and longs. But you see these numbers. They gave up less than 300 yards to Oklahoma this week. The defense is playing well enough to win a football game. And the offense, for the most part, is playing well enough to win a football game. But they brought in Hank Brown for a couple of weeks. And everybody wants Hank Brown to play instead of Peyton Thorne, but he's got a 4 interception game just like Peyton Thorne did. But everybody says, well, look what he's doing. And Hugh Freeze is going to protect the freshman with better play calls. Why can't we protect the senior with better play calls? I think that's what we need to do. Hugh Freeze needs to look and realize who he has is not an NFL guy, and realize run the ball more. And I believe he's the actual guy he's the head coach of that high school team from that movie where she said, run the dang ball. That was Hugh Freeze.
That was Hugh Freeze.
She needs to come tell him again, run the dang ball, Hugh.
Yeah. So I watched the end of this. There was a sequence before the interception where Peyton Thorne throws 3 bad passes.
Mm-hmm.
And they were horrible passes. Like they were throw it away. Just throw it away. Don't do that. Then he throws the pick. Then Oklahoma scores.
Mm-hmm.
And then Oklahoma's defense does what they do, and they got it done at the end of the game.
Right.
For having such a good offensive mind, Hugh Freeze is a dumbass. This is a man who beat Alabama twice when Alabama had the nastiest defenses in the country.
Yeah.
Before Kirby went to Georgia. I don't know what the answer is, Terry, because like you said, Peyton Thorne got very frustrated. They showed the video where he's yelling at the receiver, telling him to watch, look for whatever, and he is mad. Like he is angry, and rightfully so. Then he can't shake it off. He throws the pick. The pick leads to a touchdown.
Right.
And good teams are going to make you pay. And here's the bad thing for Auburn. Oklahoma is not even close to the best team in the SEC.
Right.
And you got
These
Georgia.
The next 3 games.
Yeah.
We'll go over the schedule, but
we'll get there. Yeah.
But yeah, the next 3 games are on the road. They have not played on the road yet all year. And they're 2-3 at home so far. And they're about to go on the road to Georgia. They're going to go to Missouri, and they're going to go to Kentucky.
Yeah.
And none of those is going to be easy.
Nope. Especially after, we thought maybe Kentucky would be a little bit more competitive, and it still might. But Kentucky beat Ole Miss, and Kentucky played with Georgia.
That's right.
And they don't throw interceptions, either of those teams.
Right. Exactly.
Unless it's to Alabama. Terry, what's next, buddy?
The next thing is our top 10 list.
Nice. You snuck it in on the end there to be the last one instead of me this time. That's okay. I love it.
Well.
The top 10, are we going to match up with the AP and the coaches poll?
We're not, and we're going to not match up with the AP or the coaches really early because number 10 is Clemson.
Wow. Okay.
3-1, 2-0 in conference. They had the game against Georgia, the big loss to start the season. They're 3-0 since then, and they're going to Tallahassee this weekend to play a crippled Florida State Seminoles team.
Watched a little bit, and I'm going to give you an anecdote, and then we'll move on. Watched a little bit of the Stanford game. Stanford was playing pretty decent with them, I think, the first quarter. And then it was just bye-bye, just gone. So when Jameis was the quarterback and Florida State had that really, really strong defense, they came into Death Valley before Brent Venables was the DC, but Dabo was the head coach, and Taj Boyd was the quarterback. And I don't remember if it was the first drive or the second drive, and this will be one that Dave remembers, and he can correct me in our post-production text messages. Florida State comes out and just whacks Taj Boyd. I mean, they blitzed him. They made him either fumble or they sacked him so far back, like it was 3rd and a mile, whatever. And they kicked the ball to Florida State. Florida State marches it down the field, touchdown. Next play, defense, touchdown. Next play, touchdown. They dominated Clemson in Death Valley, in Clemson, with 90,000 people watching, and just silenced the crowd. This was 2013, I believe, was Jameis's national championship year. you're probably going to see that at Duck Stadium come Saturday. Florida State is going to get waxed, and I never thought that I would say that, Terry, because they can't protect their quarterback, they
Right.
can't run the ball, they can't establish the line of scrimmage. And while Clemson could have done the turtle and just fold up for the season, they have come roaring out of the gate as the Clemson Tigers that we remember. So I know we're not previewing the game yet when we get there, but I mean it's going to be a long night for the Seminoles, I think.
I don't even know who they have as a backup quarterback that's going to step in and play. Is it the same guy that played the bowl game last year?
Probably. Unless he transferred too, because they all transferred.
Right. So Dave will tell us that part.
Yeah, like I said, in post-production, he loves us. So.
All right, number 9, Missouri. And this does match the AP poll.
Oh,
Missouri,
Terry,
yeah.
Before you move on, I had to look it up because I knew I was right or thought I was. October 19th, 2013, Florida State number 5 travels to Clemson to face the number 3 Tigers. Florida State 51, Clemson 14 in a top 5 matchup. Yeah, it was a one-sided ass whooping. Anyway, what wasn't an ass whooping because they were off this week is the Missouri Tigers, who are number 9. Tell us about them, Terry.
Well, they're 4-0, some big wins against some nobodies. They had a close game against Boston College and a surprisingly close game against Vandy in their last game. And they're headed to Texas A&M, and they better bring their game.
Yeah, but they got a week off. Sometimes that helps. They've got a week off, and they've got A&M. Now, A&M is one of those teams that's on I'd call them the upper mid of the SEC, I think. Because, damn it, if Elko can't get them to play for him, and that may be one we review. I don't remember if it's in the list of the ones but they were behind most of the time this weekend, and they came back and finished it off to win the football game. And then they get UMass, and then it's Auburn, and then it's Alabama, and then it's Oklahoma. So, I think the Tigers will be fine. I think they've got a few nickups or bang-ups or injuries, and hopefully these 4 help, because you're right, Vandy had no business playing with them. We know Boston College is a pretty good football team, and then, of course, they goose-egged both Murray and Buffalo. But I think this one's tight. We'll talk about it, but it'll be how this is a big game for them. I have Missouri in my rankings. Brian, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm saying this is a big game for them. So, anyway, yeah, Missouri, it's a great football team. So we'll move on because we're going to preview them later. What's number 8, Terry?
Number 8 is Penn State.
No.
I think they're number 7 in the AP poll, but we got
something like that. They're gonna dog walk UCLA this week.
Yeah.
UCLA is going to be the doormat of the Big Ten. That's my bold prediction. The win in Illinois matters. Kent State, Bowling Green, West Virginia didn't tell us anything.
Right.
They get UCLA, and then they get USC, and it's at USC in the Coliseum. And then it's, Wisconsin, Ohio State, Washington.
You got some tough ones coming up after UCLA. At USC, at Wisconsin, Ohio State. It's getting tough.
But I expect they'll be 5-0 after this weekend, and they are very, very, very good defense. They are a very, very, very disciplined football team. I don't think, UCLA's got a chance. But anyway, let's see.
I think Penn State, normally, they're very consistent. They're going to win the games they're supposed to win, but they're going to lose the games they're supposed to lose, too. Well, they're the same place that the AP has them.
Yeah, There's a lot of really good football teams this year, Bryant. We're getting there. Hold on. Let's move on to number 7, Terry.
Number 7, Oregon Ducks.
Quack, quack. They just dog walked UCLA, and they got Michigan State this week, who's coming off of a rather lopsided loss in East Lansing. They're not in the review, so we can go ahead and talk about it. Ohio State just put it on Michigan State this past weekend, and they did it in Spartyville. the reason when you and Dave were talking about, I thought 25 points was a lot, for the spread.
Mhm.
The reason I thought that might be too much is Michigan State's one of those teams that it doesn't matter what the record is, they're going to play Ohio State hard. They did not.
Right.
I think if Dan Lanning can get Oregon to match that same intensity that Ohio State brought, that 2 weeks in a row, Michigan State's just not going to be able to handle it. And if I'm not mistaken, Terry, is that a Friday night game? That's a
I'd have
Friday
to
night game.
double-check. The 10-12 on the Ohio State.
It's
I believe
definitely
so.
a Friday night game, buddy. They're playing
Let's
Friday
double-check
night
that.
on
Hey,
Fox.
I've been known to not have that.
That's
I've
got to
been
be the
known,
Fox
but-
game. Yeah, Friday, Michigan State and Oregon.
It is 10-12. Yep.
Yeah, if Oregon can run the ball and do what they do with Dylan Gabriel, they'll be fine. Michigan State, is going to get a pass from me mostly because of what happened last year with their coach.
I think they're doing pretty well for
they're-
their
yeah.
situation.
Exactly. So anyway, Oregon at 7 is probably about right because they're going to slip and fall with the Boise game and the Idaho game. Those two games really did them no favors. But since then, they have played like we expect Oregon to play. So I would expect that trend to continue Friday night against Michigan State.
So we are going to have a team that's a little high, and we'll discuss that when we get there. But number 6 is Georgia, dropping from – where were they last week in our poll? Were they number 2 last week in our
They
poll?
were number 2 behind Texas.
Okay. So after the loss to Alabama, they whipped Clemson. 1 point win at Kentucky, lost to Alabama. They dropped to 6.
Yeah.
And they host Auburn this weekend, and I'm going to have a hard time picking this game because
It's
it could be
between
a
the
lot of
hedges and
different
it's
things.
Georgia coming off of a game like that. I mean, I'll say it for you. No way Auburn wins.
No. Yeah, I know that part. I'm just thinking about the spread.
I got you. I think I put it in
It's
the notes,
23.5. I think.
Yeah, it's big spread. Georgia did everything they could to come back. You don't turn the ball over 4 times and win games. You don't go into a 21-point hole against a team like Alabama in Tuscaloosa at Bryant-Denning Stadium on Nick Saban Field. See if I can get all the prepositional phrases tonight, Terry, and win a football game. So Georgia's fine. They're still a playoff team. They could still be an SEC title team.
Unless you
they'll
got Cam Newton.
They'll bounce back. So Bober's back. He says Georgia will cover.
We'll talk about that later. Number
We'll get there in a
5,
minute.
Miami
Oh.
Hurricanes, a little high probably compared to
For
the other
fuck's
polls,
sake.
especially after
Who's voting the U in after the referees gave them the win? That's a bunch of trash.
and they're going
Fans
to
do better.
California for the nice 10:30 p.m. game this weekend. So this
My
is
ass
what's
gonna
going
put
to
that
keep
shit on
rolling.
DVR, Terry. I ain't watching that nonsense. California's gonna get beat, but they should have lost to Virginia Tech. They should be 4-1, not 5-0. Even Mario Cristobal knows it. The U is not nearly as good as this record. They got exposed by Virginia Tech. Good teams are going to take advantage of them. The U does not continue this undefeated streak. Well, maybe this week, but when they run into Louisville, maybe not.
All right, number 4, Tennessee.
They're number 4 in the AP poll too, and the coaches poll.
Yeah, we're pretty close to the AP and coaches poll. We just have, Miami's a little high. We got Clemson a little high. Pretty close.
Versus convicts. That's funny. Bober, surfers versus convicts. I love it.
But Tennessee at Arkansas. Arkansas is one of those teams that's looked really good against weaker teams, but hasn't really shown up with some competition. Unless you throw a bunch of interceptions to them, then they can win football games.
Somebody tell Sam Pittman to pack his shit because Bobby Petrino's taking his office at the end of the season.
Taking it back.
Yeah, he's taking it back. Tennessee, they're going to keep on rolling. They had the bye coming out of this Oklahoma game, and I think you see Tennessee keep rolling. We talked about their schedule and how favorable it is to them.
Yep.
They've got a couple of big games on there, but
Everything else is
everything else. I
You'll
mean,
have
they've
to
got
go there.
Alabama. Florida's awful. They've got Alabama, They've got Kentucky. Don't stub your toe there, Tennessee.
Right.
And they got Georgia. But let's face it, Florida sucks. Mississippi State's garbage. UTEP and Vandy. This really does favor Heifel for a really nice setup to finish well in the SEC. So, number 3, Terry.
Number 3 is Ohio State.
There they are.
And it's just like the AP.
Are we taking the under this week? Because they are favored by 20.5 against Iowa in Columbus. I mean, we'll talk about it.
So what are they going to do? Miss an extra point?
I was going to say, that's hard. Yeah, that's hard. 20.5 is what they're favored by against Iowa, which can be a very good football team, but I mean, I don't know. So,
I don't
Ohio
know.
State, they're getting it
Ohio
done.
State, they haven't really. I mean, Akron, Western Michigan, Marshall, and even though we talk about Michigan State doing pretty well to bounce back, they haven't really been tested. They haven't had that team that can punch them in the mouth. Maybe Iowa's got enough defense to do something.
Well, and if I'm not mistaken, Michigan State, we don't have the stat or the graphic, and we could probably look it up real quick, but I think Michigan State, Ohio State took the ball away from them 3 or 4 times in the red zone and or stopped them on turnovers, Terry. So when you got a defense that's playing like that, bend not break, as we like to call it,
right.
I mean, it does matter. Hold on, I'll pull it up real quick because it won't take but a second. But Ryan Day has got 2 fantastic receivers. He's got a very good quarterback in Will Howard. The guy is a mechanic. He understands what routes to play, options to play. So Michigan State turned the ball over 3 times against Ohio State's defense. But surprisingly, and this was something that stuck out, 6 total penalties in the game for both teams combined. That's it. So a pretty clean game that way. But when you turn the ball over 3 times, Terry, against an Ohio State offense led by Chip Kelly, you're not going to win the football game. Is number 2 Texas this week, or are we Alabama fans? There you go.
Number 2 is Texas, and they've got a bye week after the whipping of Mississippi State to prepare for Oklahoma on October 12th.
Slow start for Arch against Mississippi State. But they really, I mean, Texas is Texas. There was no way they were losing the Mississippi State game. I think, and we can speculate this because we know Alabama's number 1. I think the Georgia win is all that did it because Texas doesn't have a signature win just yet. But if they beat Oklahoma and then they beat Georgia, now you've got something to discuss. But I would argue that Alabama has the best win of the season. Even the way Georgia handled Clemson to start the season with. I think Alabama's got the best win of the season. So let's go to number 1, Terry. It's Roll Tide.
Is Alabama.
Your favorite. Yes, sir.
And their prize for winning against Georgia is to go to Vanderbilt and just gobble them up as a snack.
Terry, it's fucking Vandy, okay? I mean, they're going to lose by 60 in this game.
They're going to use a lot of the light bulbs on that scoreboard that's swinging from the crane.
Yeah. And I think if I saw this, I may be wrong. I think it's like a 12 o'clock kickoff.
Yeah.
So they're getting it done early.
Let's get it over with.
Yeah.
And watch some better games.
Let's go back to Tuscaloosa. We got better shit to do than hang out here.
All right, let me run it down. We got number 10, Clemson, number 9, Missouri, number 8, Penn State, number 7, Oregon, number 6, Georgia, number 5, Miami, number 4, Tennessee, number 3, Ohio State, number 2, Texas, and number 1, the Alabama Crimson Tide. So let's move on to this week.
Yeah, so my thing is, just on the top 10, I think that, you're emotionally voting for Alabama after that great win because they did have the stop when they needed it. They got the 4 turnovers when they needed them. They played great offense. They look like the Crimson Tide. They surrendered a lot of offense, though, to Georgia, Terry. And the last 9 minutes of the game, they gave up 3 touchdowns. So slow down. But anyway. Who's not going to slow down is Missouri and A&M, buddy.
Yeah, and when I got these numbers, A&M at home is favored by 1 point against Missouri.
1
And
point.
I think, honestly, the scare that Missouri had against Vanderbilt, I mean, the question is, what do they do after that? So I think they're going in, and I think A&M's got them by at least a touchdown.
You think A&M's going to beat Missouri by a touchdown?
I do.
I'm going Missouri by 10.
All right.
Because I trust and believe in Missouri's offense and their defense and their special teams, and they've got an established coach with a game plan and a culture and a program, whereas Mike Elko is still trying to figure it all out at A&M. That's why I'm going. And let's face it, College Station, whether you like them or not, is got to be one of the Eli is not getting the Heisman Bober. Stop it.
It's not the top 30, Bober.
Yeah. Missouri or not Missouri. College Station's got to be one of the most difficult places to win a football game. We both know that. We stipulate that. 108,000 people. It's all they have to do there. Like you said, Terry, they'll start camping 2 days before the game starts and getting drunk,
Yeah, and they rehearse cheering for the game the night before.
Yeah. And that's legitimate. That's not just us making this crap up. But I think Missouri, after the week off, after the wake-up call with Vandy, they're a much better football team than how they've shown. So I think you're going to see Missouri, to Bryant's point earlier in the chat, this is a true test for Missouri. This is a measuring stick, a litmus test, or whatever you want to say. Where are we at in the season? This is going to tell us, but I'm going to take the Tigers by 10 because I think they're going to come in motivated. It's also an early game. The crowd isn't going to be nearly as raucous. They're not going to be nearly as drunk. And I don't, people think that's funny. That matters. Night game elements completely different than a 12 o'clock kickoff.
Hey, we started drinking at like 8 a.m. What are you talking about?
Well, they're going to have to start if they're going to be loud there. Moving on, the Mustangs are playing Louisville at Louisville, Terry. And despite the way they drummed Florida State, I think Louisville is a better football team than that. And I'm going with the Cardinals. And I think 7 points is probably right. So I'm going to say 9 just to be different.
I'll say 13. I mean, I like SMU, but I think they're good against weaker teams or teams that just aren't in it. But I like Louisville here, and they're at home, and I think they're just going to outmatch them.
Yeah.
13 points for me.
Hawkeyes, Ohio State in Columbus, 3:30 in the afternoon, 105,000 in the Horseshoe. That defense we talked about, 3 takeaways. Cade McNamara at Iowa, question mark for me, Terry. I don't think he's nearly as good a quarterback as they had hoped he would be.
Right.
Buckeyes, big. That 20.5, give me 35 against Iowa. Because they got a $25 million offense plus a hell of a coordinator there at Ohio State.
So I don't have any faith in Iowa being able to score. The question is, how many points is Iowa's defense going to give to Ohio State? 20.5 seems low. Seems like they got to score. I mean, does Iowa even score, or is this a 0? That's the question for me.
My question is this the Penn State game from last year where Penn State went in and they just drummed Iowa and Iowa had no answers? And I think that's what you're going to see because this is a high-octane, high-powered, run-by-Chip Kelly offense with a lot of talent, but their defense is equally dangerous. So I'm going Ohio State, and I'm serious, 35 points. 5 full touchdowns in this one, buddy.
Yeah, they're stacked. I'll go 24.
Yeah.
All right. Auburn at Georgia.
Auburn and rip it off, Gary. Rip the Band-Aid off.
Oh, so obviously I'm picking Georgia to win this with that 23.5, even at Georgia. Okay. Auburn's defense, like I said, has played well enough to keep them in every game this year. And the thing that would make this 23.5 to me happen to me is 5 turnovers. And they've done it. They've done it multiple times. I'm going to go Georgia by 10.
So I agree with what you said, but the Georgia pressure. Auburn is not going to be able to pressure Georgia the same way that Alabama did in terms of being able to score with them. You're going to have a young quarterback who's going to get shown an exotic blitz or a different look that he's not so familiar with, and or Peyton Thorne. And all of a sudden, Georgia's going to eat him up. I'm taking the Dogs by 4 scores. Give them to me by 28 in this one, Terry. It's between the hedges. It's 3:30. It's coming off of a very close game where Kirby Smart once again had to be told, well, you lost to Alabama. You're 1-6 against Alabama. And he says, does anybody have a better record than me against Alabama? Has anyone else played him 7 times? So Kirby understands the assignment. It's just getting it done. I don't think you see that same Georgia team, though, that gives up 21 points in the first quarter ever again. So give me the Dogs. Give them big, unfortunately for you.
All right, let's move on. Ole Miss at South Carolina. It's a 3:30 kick. Ole Miss favored by 9. And this is where I start asking, is Ole Miss what we thought they were, or are they what we saw this past weekend? And
So
I don't know the answer to that.
I think Ole Miss had a really bad day against a very good team that's only going to win 8 games. South Carolina has 2 very good pass rushers. They could make this game interesting. We saw that against LSU. Not sure that their quarterback play is going to be able to match that of Jackson Dart. I think Ole Miss comes in highly motivated in this one. And I'm going to take the Rebels by 14.
Okay, I'll go Rebels by 10. I think they're still working through some stuff. They get to practice. He's probably going to get them motivated, moving in the right direction. But I still think they need more competition in some games to get to where they need to be. And it's going to be one more week of a little bit of struggle on the road. And they will beat South Carolina, but they're not going to blow them out.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Rutgers at Nebraska, and Rutgers, as you said, 5-0 coming into this.
5-0 coming in as a 7-point underdog, and the only reason for that is Memorial Stadium, led by the best freshman quarterback in the country, Dylan Raiola. Raiola, just as a point of reference, Terry, has thrown for like 1,200 or 1,300 yards. Nebraska's offense last year for the whole season threw for 1,500 and change. So the point being, we got a gamer here, and he's fixing the problem at quarterback. Rutgers is a very good, well-disciplined, well-coached team. Greg Schiano is a very good coach. He's been a coordinator at Ohio State. This is his second trip at Rutgers. He's done things at Rutgers that teams, he's like Kalen DeBoer in that way. They don't have resources at Rutgers that you're going to have at Nebraska, or you're going to have at Ohio State, or you're going to have at Michigan. Nebraska's home field advantage is going to play a part. It's a 4:00 kick. I think you finally see the Huskers. Dylan Raiola's got to ball in this game. He's been great. 17, 18 out of 25, 26 passes, couple 100 yards. He's thrown 2 interceptions, both of which were taken from his receivers on the way to the ground. So it's not like he's thrown a bad ball and it's gotten picked. The kicking game, hopefully they can get squared. And here's why I say this. Despite the fact they're my beloved Huskers, I'm not picking against them. Don't get it twisted. I think it comes down to 1 or 2 field goals. So I'm taking Nebraska by 6 against Rutgers. And it's going to be a tight game. Tight game, I think.
All right. Well, I'm going to go Nebraska by 4.
There you go. All right, so Clemson, Florida State, we've already discussed a little bit, Terry. You lead us off. What do you expect to see in Tallahassee, 7:00?
Okay, so the question is Florida State going to say, this is the Clemson game? We got to get up for it. Now, I don't know if this 15.5 favored Clemson number here has moved because of any of the news on the depth chart or the injuries. But I don't know. 15.5 doesn't seem like enough to me. I'm thinking more like 24. I think Clemson by 24 here.
Yeah, I am with you 100%. We're on the same page. Clemson goes in and they make a statement and they victimize Florida State. Florida State will not be able to take the care of business on the offensive front of the ball, and they will not make it on the defensive side of the ball. Bryant Haremza in Coach Rule's press conference this morning, he said it was all due to the snap, not the kicker. I don't necessarily believe that. Don't kick field goals. Let's score touchdowns. You got the best freshman quarterback in the country. Anyway, on this Clemson and Florida State game, Terry, you and I are on the same page, 24 to 30 points. I'll go 24. Just let's agree today. But
All right.
Clemson is going to make a statement at the expense of Mike Norvell and Florida State.
All right, let's move along to the next one. We got Tennessee at Arkansas, 7:30 kick. Tennessee's favored on the road by 13.5. I don't know. I'm
crowd's
thinking
rowdy
20.
Crowd's rowdy in Fayetteville, but double that up. I'm going 27 for Tennessee.
Okay.
There's too much offense. They've got a great defensive line. Arkansas gets a little trigger happy when they get behind. That's when they start making mistakes. I understand they've got a really, really good offensive coordinator. They've got a decent scheme, but they haven't played an offense like Tennessee.
Right.
I don't believe. I don't think I've got that wrong. This is an offense that's going to press them, and they don't play good defense at Arkansas. So Tennessee, I'm going 27, double the spread.
Yeah, and I got 20 on that.
Yeah.
All right, so we got USC at Minnesota. You know, this game, I mean, how many times have these two teams played each other? Saturday at 7:30 a kick, and USC favored by 9.5.
Well, here's the thing, Terry. SC, we didn't talk about it, but they played Wisconsin this past week.
Mm-hmm.
And Wisconsin jumped up on them 21-3 or something and ends up losing the game 38-21. SC did that thing that you love so much from the 2004 season, where all of a sudden they decided they better start playing football.
Snatched it away from me every week, no matter who they played.
And just turn it on, like that. And here they go, 38 points in the Coliseum. I know that Cal has a good defense, particularly a good passing defense. We also know SC is going to throw the ball. It would not, I said Cal, Minnesota. Minnesota's got a passing defense. A little bit anyway. I would say that USC walks this one, though, probably 17 points. The biggest thing for them is it is in Minnesota, but PJ Fleck doesn't have enough on that side of the ball to keep up with Lincoln Riley. 17 points. Go Trojans. Yeah, gross.
So let's see. They're favored by 9.5. Let me go. I'll say 13.
Yeah. Last one, the U that should not be undefeated, 4-1 playing Cal that does have a very good passing defense. We know Cam Howard is going to throw the ball. Is it Cam Howard? Do I have that right? Cam Ward, excuse me.
Yeah.
Cam Ward. It's Howard's the Ohio State. Howard.
Right.
Cam Ward is going to throw the ball a little bit. They're going to try to run the ball some. I think the U knows that they got lucky against Virginia Tech and that they better bring it. 21 points, Miami over Cal. And I think Cal will keep it close for a little bit, but then the U's going to run away with it.
Cal is Florida State's only win, which is an interesting thing. But Cal is a decent football team. You know, if Miami goes out there and they want a nap on this one, Cal can keep it close. But I got to think they're not going to do it after the scare this past weekend.
Mm-mm.
Give me Miami by 17.
There you go. And those are our picks for the week. I do want to make a special announcement before Terry wraps us up because it's time to go. Time to go home. Next week, the champion of the bowl pick'ems, Bryant Haremza, a great Nebraska fan, good college football fan, will be joining us. Look who's on top of the college pick'em, Terry. How about that? We got Bryant, Bober, and T-Weave. I sucked this week and went 4-5. The App State game will not be rescheduled, by the way, for anybody playing along at home. North Carolina got decimated on the western side of this state by Hurricane Helene, and the roads are broken and people are cut off. And it's not Boone, but the other mountain town, I forget. I just lost it. The only way in is by helicopter right now. So that game will not be played. So everybody's got an odd number is what I'm saying, because that game got canceled. But Bryant is the leader. Bryant will join us next week for at least the football show.
That's right.
He said, I forgot to submit 3 picks. Well, apparently you're better than everybody else, sir. And remember, one of those picks got canceled, so you only forgot 2 picks. So that's
you had a
why,
big lead.
Because you got 47, and there's only 50 total possible points right now, week 5. I believe that's right.
49, I think it looks like.
Is it only 49? Okay.
Maybe that Liberty game that got canceled was one of them, I think.
Well, that's the Liberty App State game, yeah.
Yeah, that game was on the list, I think. So that's why.
It was, and it got canceled. But anyway, it doesn't matter. Brian's going to join us because October the 12th is going to be what he wanted to talk about. That's the big weekend in college football. Texas, Oklahoma, Oregon, Ohio State.
Right.
Nebraska is off that weekend. There's several other games that we'll discuss. But anyway, we're going to let everybody know Brian's joining us. The reason Brian's joining us, we didn't buy him a trophy. We don't do that shit around here. So he gets to come be a guest picker as his reward for winning last year. And we'll have fun. And like I said, we don't know what the top 10 for the first show is. If Brian's available, he can join us for that. If not, we'll just do our football thing and we'll move on. But it'll be next Monday night, live, 8 o'clock, I believe, Terry. That's what we're telling people anyway, isn't it?
It's what it has been so far, unless something happens.
8 and 9. Join us, people. Thank you for voting. Keep voting in the football poll. This was different than what I expected to see a little bit, so I appreciate that very much. Terry, it's all you, man.
All right. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Allison. Thanks, everybody that joined in. Thank you, everybody that votes. If you have any ideas, try to stay positive, guys, and feed them to us. You can get me at TWeave79. Andrew is at 30-year fan. Allison is at Allison Faye. All that's on Twitter. We also have our social media for the show itself. You can reach us through DMs there. But thanks, everybody, for joining in and voting. And be a champ this week in everything that you do. See you next time, everybody.